Okay, Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie Smalls, names and tracks that we know in part because of our next guests. Stretch and Bobbito are New York icons and legends of hip-hop radio. They hosted the Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito show in the 90s, but the duo is now flipping a script, putting out an album of their own with the M19s. I defy you to not bop. While you're listening to this, their debut album is called No Requests. I'm gonna call you by your governments right now. Adrian, Stretch Armstrong, Bartos, and Robert Bobbito Garcia. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. First things first, you grew up where?
Upper East Side of Manhattan.
And you grew up where?
Upper West.
And where did you guys meet? In Central Park?
At the tennis courts.
At the tennis courts in Central Park.
The great lawn.
Exactly.
I saw him from across the fresh spring grass.
And you were like, Bobbito.
I was working at Def Jam in 1989. I actually worked there for 4 years. And in 1990, he was an emerging club DJ, like skyrocketing, and came by the office to pick up some promos.
And then you looked longingly over at him.
For me, it was a big deal to go to Def Jam in 1990. At that point, I was pretty much buying records. So when I got an invitation to actually get free promos from like the world's greatest label, I like beelined right to the office. The funny thing is when I got there, nobody was there. There was no receptionist, no security. I was literally walking around the office like, is there anybody here? And on the way there, I bumped into a young woman I know who told me she had a crush on this guy, Robert Garcia.
Oh.
So I'm looking around, and I look in the there's a conference room. I stick my head in, and I see a Latino brother putting records in envelopes. And I was like, is there a Garcia here? He's like, that's me. I was like, and he knew who I was because he had seen me DJing at Mars.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And literally that afternoon and we started hanging out every day from that moment on.
No doubt. And 4 months later, we were invited to be on the radio at Columbia University, where he was matriculating.
Matriculating.
Wow, that's a Wesleyan word. We went to Wesleyan, by the way.
Yes.
Talk to me about this underground radio show, because I've spoken to already 3 people that were like, yo, I used to record this stuff. I learned about Nas. I learned about, so many artists that are like the fabric of hip hop, because you know better than I. When hip hop came out, they were like, oh, it's just a fad. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's become incredibly mainstream. So back in the day, did you have any idea you would have such an impact on New Yorkers and anyone with ears who listened to hip hop?
I think in the 90s, as we were doing the show, it was, I don't think we were really even considering what it meant beyond.
Look at you.
Back
in the day, you had no idea.
No, and I think, we weren't, the connectivity we all have now through social media, we didn't have that in the 90s. So, I mean, we'd get letters, we'd get phone calls, and certainly when we were on the streets, we'd bump into people and say, yeah. But when we did our film, Stretch and Bobbito Radio That Changed Lives, which of course is in the context of social media, the amount of people that connected with us because they, whether they were in like Bolivia or in China, I mean,
you reached
listeners
them. You
everywhere.
Reached
Netflix was when our film was licensed to Netflix, they had just expanded to 190 countries, and a lot of these places, are, we'd never consider that those were locations where we had listeners.
M19, the M19s is the name of your album.
Mm-hmm.
No Requests. Or M19s is the name of the band.
Mm-hmm.
No Requests. What's M19 in homage to?
Well, so he grew up on the Upper East Side. I grew up on the Upper West, and M19 was a crosstown bus. And what it did was it connected multiple communities. You had the Irish, you had the Upper East Side, upper level.
The upper echelon.
The upper echelon.
And then us.
El Barrio, Upper West Side, had Haitian community, Chinese community, Jewish community, Dominican community. And so, similarly, our music tries to travel through multiple genres, multiple rhythms, polyrhythms within each song.
Right.
And essentially the name of the album is No Request because we introduced the world to Unsigned Nas, Biggie, Wu-Tang, Big Pun, Eminem, Jay-Z, Big L, on and on. Most people would think if we were to finally do an album 30 years later, that it would be a rap album and we would
But it's not.
call up all
Yeah.
our, old boys and like, yo, and homegirls like, come
Put
drop
the
a
band
verse.
back
Yeah.
together.
Right, get the band back together.
But our music interest has always been so much wider than just hip hop. And actually, as a hip hop head, you should have a wide interest in multiple genres because
That's what makes it
that's
full.
the foundation of it.
We could make this into a documentary, but we can't. Quick shout out, you were at the Kennedy Center. I heard you brought the house down tonight.
We
The
had-
Gramercy.
Gramercy Theater, we did.
Tickets still available?
Tickets are still available.
East 23rd Street, Manhattan.
Yep.
All
And
right.
we sold out the Kennedy Center, our nation's official
Capital.
cultural center. And we had 3 standing ovations during the show. So we're
And now
gonna
you'll have
rock
4.
tonight. Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
are like the epitome of the New York kids who made it. So
Oh,
thank
man.
you. Thank you very much. It's called No Request, Bobbito, Stretch. Oh, wait, where's Ben? We'll be right back, but take a look at Ben's homage to Mr. Stretch Armstrong. That is our very own Ben,
That's-
who was a DJ back in the day.